In this lesson, we're going to be talking about virus types. Now, there's a few different types of viruses, and some of them are really kind of hybrids because they take a couple of different types of viruses and use the behavior from those, and we classify them as a new type. One of the first ones I want to talk about is a boot sector virus. Some examples here of boot sector viruses that were collected. And there's really not much to them. They're probably encrypted in some way or packed, and so there's really not an awful lot to see with them. But you can see there's a couple of different ones here. I could even do a diff between them and show you that they're different. These are boot sector viruses, and the way a boot sector virus works is it replaces the boot record on your system with a piece of code that will run the virus prior to launching your existing or old boot sector. So it copies your boot record off to somewhere else that it knows about. The very first thing that it does is to run the virus and make sure that you are nice and well and truly infected, and then it actually goes and executes the code from your old boot record in order to load the operating system. There's a number of different types of boot sector viruses, 4 different types that I've got stored here. Which is not to say there are only 4. Boot sector viruses have been around for a really long time. So another kind of virus that we can talk about is a shell virus. And the reason it's called a shell is it wraps a shell around a particular executable. So it would infect your system by taking an executable that you would run a lot, like maybe Notepad on a Windows system, for example. It would wrap Notepad inside this shell that would actually run the virus code first before launching the actual Notepad. So you end up running the virus when you think that you're running a legitimate application. So shell viruses can be challenging because you're running something that you think you're sure about. The only way to actually know whether your system is infected is to check a known good version of the executable against this one in some way. And of course, that's what antivirus programs do, is they check for things like that. Particularly if you're running a signature, it will look for the signature in all of your executables to see whether the virus is hidden inside the executable that would normally be considered good. Another type is a multipartite. It's a combination of a boot sector and a shell virus. So a multipartite infects both files in the boot sector. It's really a boot sector and a shell virus all wrapped into one. We also have macros, and macros are usually written in Visual Basic for applications, and it runs inside of Office applications. So you could open up a Word document again thinking that it's good, and you get infected with this virus because it's embedded in a macro inside of your Word document or an Excel spreadsheet or any number of documents associated with Microsoft Office applications. Now, Office has gotten a lot better about how it treats macros, but macro viruses have been around for quite a while and were really popular for a really long time. We also have polymorphic viruses, and polymorphic does code mutation so signatures change. This is Zeus, which was a pretty popular piece of malware. It's actually a botnet, so it's a pretty bad piece of software. And it can look different based on how you actually generate it. So you can see here there's some configuration that goes along with it, and we could install web filters and do web fakes and a number of other things. There are some rules that it's got about how it's not allowing you to go to anywhere at Microsoft.com. Similarly, not allowing you to go to MySpace. We've set up some web filters, and these all get set up when you build Zeus. And there's a little builder program that you run, and it actually creates an executable for you to distribute. The thing about Zeus, though, as I said, is it looks different based on how you configure it, and so it's a bit of a polymorphic virus because the signatures can change and look different based on what you do with it. Now, comparing a polymorphic virus to a metamorphic virus, a metamorphic virus rewrites itself every time a file gets infected. So, where a polymorphic virus may have a number of different signatures for different systems, a metamorphic virus would be one that, let's say it found 5 files to infect on your system, it would look different in all 5 of those files. So polymorphic does code mutation, it's going to change and look a little bit different. It's going to have multiple shapes. Metamorphic is going to rewrite itself every time it finds a file to get infected. So that's some different virus types that you are going to run into as you start digging around through malware and doing malware analysis and malware work.